Hello again, and welcome to the St. Louis Blues Hockey Legends Podcast. Tom Calhoun here to shine a light on the stories of those instrumental in blues history. The Blues Legends Podcast is presented by Sarah Honda, O'Fallon, Illinois. Check out their 618 Sarah Bucks offer at sarahhondaofallon.com. A participating sponsor, the Gateway Grizzlies. The Nike Baseball Camp is coming soon for young baseball players. Visit gatewaygrizzlies.com for details. On this episode, we visit with an NCAA hockey champion, a Stanley Cup champion, and a former captain of the Blues. Number 10, Dallas Drake. He was drafted by the Detroit Red Wings after a stellar college career at Northern Michigan. Spent several years with the Winnipeg Jets and Phoenix Coyotes after the Jets moved there, then signed as a free agent with the Blues in the early 2000s. He splits his time these days between Traverse City, Michigan, where we caught up with him, and winters in the Phoenix area coaching youth hockey. We had a great visit with Dally that you will surely enjoy right after these words from Sarah Honda O'Fallon.
When it's time to find your next car, what's changed in your life? What's driving you to start the process? What are you really looking for? These are the questions we're asking at Sarah Honda. We believe in real communication, real problem solving, and trustworthy long-term relationships with our customers. We're part of your community, and we want you to be part of ours. At Sarah Honda, the experience drives everything. You've got a lot going on in life, and you depend on your car to get you to places you need to be. So when it's time for maintenance or repair, we know you need it done fast and done right. Convenience and quality customer service with team members you can trust. That's what you're looking for. We'll get you safely back on the road and back to your busy life. At Sarah Honda, the experience drives everything.
Well, on this version of the Blues Hockey Legends Podcast, we're thrilled to have Dallas Drake with us and one of the former captains of our team. Dallas, how's it going?
It's going well, thank you very much. Just enjoying a little nice weather here in Michigan today. Finally warmed up a little bit.
Yeah, you're a BC guy. How'd you wind up in TC up there in Traverse City?
Yeah. Oh, I went to school at Northern Michigan University up in Marquette, so about 5 hours north of here. And my wife's from the general area here, so that's how I kind of made my way back down this way.
Yeah, I like to get into your early life. All my guests, I've done that with, and get to know a little bit more about the person than the player. And so I mentioned British Columbia, born in Trail, British Columbia, but you grew up in a place called Rossland. I looked it up. Sounds like you pretty much grew up in a resort town right there on the U.S.-Canada border.
Yeah, a really small ski town. Is actually pretty neat place to grow up, about 3,500 people, right in the mountains, lots of snow. They actually filmed the movie Miracle there. So,
I'll be darned.
yeah, so they actually rented my parents' farm when they did the football scene.
Uh-huh.
So it was kind of neat. My mom thought she was a movie star for a little bit out there recording some and taking pictures. So, yeah, it was a really, really good place to grow up where I did.
You know, I had Barrett Jackman on not too long ago, and I think he mentioned that.
Yeah, Jax is from Beaver Valley, which is about 20 minutes from Rossland. It's right up the road from Trail. So
Mhm.
yeah, he's from the general area as well.
I'll be darned. Well, how about that? All you Western Canada guys, I've had a lot of them on this podcast because the Blues tended to attract a lot of Western Canada guys. And, obviously you're one of those. And Bob Basson I had on not too long ago, from out that way. And, of course, Twister and some of the other guys, Jax I mentioned. Western Canada used to produce a lot of guys, not only for the Blues, but all the teams.
Yeah, a lot of really good hockey out there. Obviously a good portion of the WHL teams are in British Columbia, and they got some really good Tier 2 teams as well. So there's a lot of really good junior hockey out that way. And, it's still just like anything else. I mean, different eras, a few more kids come out of different areas in general. Back then, it was a lot of kids from the coast and in the interior where I grew up. So a lot of really good hockey back then, that's for sure.
Yeah. So your junior team, I guess it was, the Vernon Lakers. Is
Mhm.
that
Yeah, and they're still there. They're in the British Columbia Junior Hockey League there. Very real strong league. Yeah, so I actually played 3 years of junior B in my hometown of Rossland. Was a little bit disappointed when I had to play my third year. I thought I could play junior that year a little bit, but wasn't ready obviously. And then went and played junior at the year after I graduated and played in Vernon. Fantastic place to play, and a lot of really good players actually on that team. Played a little bit of professional hockey as well.
Uh-huh. And then you decide to go the college route. You went to Northern Michigan, as you mentioned, for 4 full years. And why'd you pick college hockey?
At the time, that was kind of the route I wanted to take. I was a pretty small junior hockey player. I don't think I was, ready to play in the WHL. The size of player I was very small. And I had close friends of mine that had played junior tier two and gone to college. So that's kind of the route I really always wanted to take. And Northern Michigan was, one of the very first teams to offer me a scholarship. So I kind of jumped on it right away. At the time, I wasn't having a great season. I was doing okay. I was doing fine. But then it seems like after I committed, things went well after that. So and I quite honestly, I'm not a big city guy whatsoever. So going to Marquette, which is a small little town, I was very comfortable in doing that. I wasn't ready to go to any type of school with 30 or 40,000 kids. That wasn't really how I was built.
So Denver or Boston U wasn't the way to go at that time.
Well, I probably would have loved to go to Denver because I did have two close friends that went there. But
Yeah.
yeah, anything much bigger than that, I really wasn't. And I really like the small atmosphere of the small towns. We were the only Division One team in Northern Michigan, so we kind of got treated pretty well up there.
We'll get back to Northern Michigan in a second, where you won a championship, and we'll talk about that a bit. But let's backtrack to your home life a little bit. Mom, dad, sisters, brothers. Tell us about how things went at home.
Well, I grew up on a dairy farm, so a lot of work as a little kid. I get up, and milk the cows every morning, and the cows at night right after school. I had a sister. My sister's 2 years younger than me. My mom still lives on the farm. Unfortunately, I lost my dad just a couple years back now. So that was obviously a tough time in my life, but my mom's still there, living on the farm. She's a tough old chick, man. I'm telling you. So still gets up, gets on the tractor, blows snow, and she's a pretty incredible woman. So I couldn't have asked for a better life growing up. Tough life, but we were kids that snowmobiled in the winter all winter long, played hockey, rode our dirt bikes in the summer. So a lot of hard work on the farm with my dad, but it was well worth it.
You have one of those backyard rinks like so many Canadian kids did.
No, not many. We tried to make some of our fields once in a while, but it was a little harder than that. We had too much fun riding our snowmobiles, so we'd usually wreck those when we try to make a rink if somehow a snowmobile would and on top of it and wreck the ice. So that's how it
Yeah.
usually went. But yeah, we tried here and there.
So talk about your current family life a little bit. I don't know if Wikipedia keeps this updated very well, but your daughter Delaney played for Wisconsin women's hockey, and uh, that goes back a few years. And she was a member of the U.S. squad that won the gold medal at the 2017 World Women's Championships. Says
Mhm.
here also that your other daughter Darby was on, I guess, the University of Nebraska Omaha swimming and diving team. So you got
Right.
some athletes.
Yeah, my daughters took after my wife. My wife was a fabulous athlete, so yeah, my daughter played at Wisconsin. My other daughter just graduated from Omaha. My oldest son played hockey, a little bit of tier two hockey, junior hockey coming up, and now I have my youngest is a 17-year-old, soon to be 18-year-old, and he's going to explore the junior ranks of hockey in Manitoba next year. So we'll see how that plays out for him. He's going to try to play junior hockey up there. But yeah, it was actually my daughter who played in Wisconsin just had a baby boy last week. So I'm a grandpa officially for the last
Grandpa
8 or 9 days.
Dallas. How about
Yeah.
that?
So that's pretty exciting for us. We're very excited for that.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, those grandkids, they're pretty special people.
Yeah.
And so your son's got that Drake pedigree. I guess the scouts are watching him, huh?
I'll see. He's got a long ways to go. So he's um he's a good kid. He's big. He's a big kid. So he's got that going for him. And he had a little bit of a rough season this last year. He missed pretty much the whole season with a knee surgery. So I guess we'll see how it all plays out, right? So
Yeah. What position does he play?
he plays the right or left wing. He can play a little bit of center. So he's got a long ways to go. So, but he's a kid that works really hard. So knock on wood, hopefully someday he gets a chance to play where he wants to.
Does he listen to dad's help?
No, nothing. I wish. No, nothing. No,
I could have
nothing.
predicted that.
No.
Uh, so about how about your early exposure to hockey? Who was your influencer that way? How did the whole thing get started?
Well, like I said, I grew up in a dairy farm, and my uncle lived up the road, and he had 3 or 4 boys that were way older than me, and they all played hockey and junior hockey in the same area, and just a lot of close friends. I mean, where I grew up, there's 3,500 people, but like they know most. If you didn't ski or play hockey, I'm not quite sure what you did. So just my dad got me started in hockey when I was, fairly young, and just like a lot of Canadian kids, at 4 or 5 years old, threw skates on me, and my dad actually tried to help coach a little bit, even though he didn't know too much about hockey. But I was very lucky when I was young, and even growing up. Like I had some incredible coaches that, I mean, I played Pee Wee hockey, and Tom Rennie, who ran Hockey Canada for a number of years and coached, assistant coach in the NHL, he was my coach when I was in Pee Wee. So I was very fortunate to get influenced by some very good people when I was a young kid, and it obviously paid off for me.
Well, it's important that that young kid listened to some of that stuff too, and took
Right.
it took the advice. Gateway Grizzlies Frontier League season is off to a great start, and I hope you'll come out to Arsenal BG Ballpark in Sauget to enjoy the affordable family baseball fun. For the young players out there, the Grizzlies manager Steve Brook and the coaches are running the Nike Baseball Camp July 7th through the 9th for ages 7 to 13. It will focus on teaching the fundamentals of the game, hitting, pitching, and fielding. Campers will receive a lot of goodies, including a camp t-shirt, tickets to a Grizzlies game, and much more. Details at gatewaygrizzlies.com under the Schedule tab. And we'll see you at a Grizzlies game. So let's get back to Northern Michigan for a second. You were a key player on the 1991 Men's Ice Hockey Championship team, the NCAA championship team, and in that year, a guy by the name, your captain, Daryl Plandowski, scored the winning goal in triple overtime to beat Boston U 8-7. And
Yeah.
were you on the ice for that one?
I was not. I was not on the ice. I was on the ice for the tying goal that Boston University scored against us, though, to make it 7-7. It was, if it quite honestly, it's that could be one of the greatest Division One hockey games, national championship games of all time. And
Fantastic.
people that don't know about it, like we were down 3-0 after the first period against Boston University, and just so you know, Keith Kachuk was on that team.
Ah, yes.
Yeah,
And
Keith had quite the team, so I always
you
hold
would
that.
run into him later on, too. Yeah.
So and then we scored 5 straight goals in the second period. We were up 6-3, and then we were actually at one point up with 7-4. They scored to tie it up to make it 7-7 with 20 seconds left.
Mm.
And we went to triple overtime, and we ended up winning in triple overtime with Daryl Plandowski scored the goal. So I tell people this, that was the greatest, other than me winning the Stanley Cup, that was the greatest hockey achievement of my life. Regardless of how I played one game in the NHL, that was something I'll never, ever forget. So
Yeah, I guess not. Where was that played?
it was in the St. Paul Civic Center in Minnesota, and the boards they had clear boards, so you could see through the boards and see the people's feet sitting there. It was kind of distracting when the puck went there. You could see right through the boards and see people's feet. I don't think those boards are in that building anymore, and quite honestly, I don't think they use that building much more for hockey games.
Yeah. Yeah, quite a memory, and congratulations on that championship. So, yeah, I did the PA for the Frozen Four this year, and Western Michigan won that.
Ah, I
So that
watched
was
that
their
game.
first. That was their first time
Mhm.
winning anything, and
Yep.
so they really traveled their crowd down here to St. Louis
Yeah,
to support that team. So they really enjoyed that one, probably as much as you did.
yeah,
So.
they had a heck of a team.
Yeah, they did, and probably we'll see quite a few of those kids in the NHL at some point.
Mhm.
So you're drafted by the Red Wings in the 1989 NHL entry draft, sixth round, 116th overall. So you were kind of under the radar, I guess, for a lot of teams at that point.
Yeah, I was drafted after my freshman year in at Northern, and wasn't anywhere close to back then. It was a lot different. I wasn't anywhere close to playing, um, in the NHL, and so I was a kid that had to play all 3, 4 years of college hockey and to make that
Hmm.
work. Yeah, and it was quite the draft year. I know the year that was the year where they drafted uh, Mike Sillinger was in the first round. I can't remember the second round was, and they drafted Nick Lidstrom in the third round, Sergei Fedorov in the fourth round. I was in the sixth round. Vladimir Konstantinov was in the 10th round. So they had a lot of players that from just that one draft that turned out to be pretty darn good players. So especially Sergey and Nick and Vladdy and stuff like that. So it
Hmm.
was yeah, it was pretty exciting to get drafted.
Remember that name, Nick Lidstrom, folks. We'll be circling back to him in just a little while. So your rookie season, 92, 93, right out of training camp, you make the team. So you didn't spend any time in the minors. Not many guys can say that.
I did, yeah, I did my second year. I got sent down well, I got injured, so I went down. So I did play a game in the minors my second year. But yeah, Brian Murray was the GM and coach at the time, and he really gave me a good opportunity to play. Coming out of college, I was kind of a scorer, like most kids coming out of college. And when I got to Detroit, I tell people this all the time. I was a centerman, and their centermen on the team at the time were Steve Eisman, Sergei Fedorov, Jimmy Carson, and whoever wanted to play on the fourth line as a center. So I realized really quick I was not going to play at all on that team if I was going to play center. So I tried to change my styles a little bit. I never shied away from being aggressive, and I I was physical and I killed penalties, and every now and then somebody would get hurt and I'd get an opportunity to play up a couple lines and kind of establish myself a little bit and scored a few goals here and there. And that's kind of was my niche. I knew what my niche was right away, and it wasn't going to be scoring. It was, being a pain in the ass to play against and play physical. And that's kind of what I did. And that's the reason I played as long as I did, because I never would have played more than a year in the league if I would have tried to play the game I played in college.
Yeah, but you did pretty good that rookie season. 18 goals, 26 assists, 44 points. So that was a pretty impressive start. I guess you had to be pretty happy with that.
Oh, I was thrilled, and like I said, I was given an opportunity here and there to play with good players. Like I didn't play on the fourth line center. I played in a top nine role and played on the wing with really good players. Every now and then I get a chance to be in the power play. But yeah, and we had a very good team that year and then lost in the first round to Toronto, which was very disappointing. But yeah, we had some players that, I mean, back then too. You remember there were so many guys scoring and putting points on the board. Stevie Eisman was getting 150 points a year, and it was very common around the league at that point.
So you're on the 92, 93 Red Wings, which tells me you were on that team for the big Tim Shovelday, Curtis Joseph
Yeah,
line brawl here in
I
St.
was.
Louis.
Oh yeah.
Where were you when all that was going on?
I was on the bench. I wasn't on the ice. Unfortunately, the rest St. Louis had their share of tough guys, as did we, and I think they were all out there. I mean, I know Proby was out there. We had guys like Denny Vial, Jim Cummins. They might have been out there, and on their side, they had Chaser was out there, and who else? I know Twister was out there, but
Dave Lowry was out there too, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, I remember. Yeah, because I think Proby might have whacked Dave Lowry upside the head once or twice. So, but yeah, yeah, it was quite the show because back, especially in the old St. Louis rink which was a fun place to be a play in. Yeah, it was right on top of you, so it was very different time back then, boy. But it was a different hockey game back then, and those guys that the Chasers of the world and Probies of the world, those guys, man, they're elite. They're elite players in a different role, but man, they were fun to play against and fun to have on your team.
I've told this story a number of times. That night, Bob Probert got put in the penalty box. He was the first one in, and I'm sitting right next to him, and he starts going up over the glass after a couple of fans, and I reached up to try to grab him to pull him back down in the penalty box, and he looked down at me. He said, "You don't want to do that." So I learned my lesson right away, not to mess with
Yeah,
Proby.
yeah. I played with Proby my first year. I was actually fortunate enough when I started that season. I was a centerman and Proby was my winger, and I was game. It was game on for me. I could yap at people. I could run around like a retard. Excuse my language. And boy, oh boy, he was like, nobody would come near him, but he would just look at people, and they were like, "All right, you're fine. Just keep doing what you're doing." He was a beautiful person.
Didn't have to worry about much, and he always had a joke when he came into the penalty box and sat next to us. He always had a quip, so he was a fun guy.
He
So
was.
after that first year, next season they trade you to Winnipeg along with Tim Shovelday for Bob
Yeah.
Esida and a guy named Sergey Boughton, I
Out,
guess.
Houghton. Yeah, it was a
Boughton.
defenseman. Yeah.
So what the heck were they thinking?
Like that was Scotty's first year in Detroit, and quite honestly, I remember having a very good start that year. I was playing with Sergey; things were going very well for me. I got in a fight and I tore the ligaments in my hand, so I was out for quite some time. And then I came back, and I tell people this all the time. It's kind of a funny story. Is Scotty called me into his office and he said, "Hey Dallas, I think we like you to settle down a little bit on the ice. We think you're like running around a little bit too much. You're getting the other team fired up." I'm like, okay. I mean, it's kind of what I do. That's what I've done, So
Yeah.
I go out play for another 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm really not playing well. I'm accomplishing nothing. Brian Murray, who's the GM, calls me in and says, and just goes off on me. He said, "Who the heck do you think you are? You're in the league because you play this way." And I'm like, "Listen, you need to go talk to Scotty because Scotty told me not to do this." And sure enough, I was traded a couple days later. So I think Scotty might have thought I mean, I'm not saying this happened, but he might, I think he thought I went to Brian and complained, which I did not. But at the time it was you know, knock on wood, you say it's a good thing because if I would have stayed in Detroit, I might have won a couple Stanley Cups a few years later. But I got traded to Winnipeg with a real young team, and I got a really good opportunity to play in a lot of different roles, and it really helped my career a lot. So it was very beneficial for me.
Yeah, I was going to say that worked out pretty well. I mean, Winnipeg, of course, eventually they moved the franchise to Phoenix. You're one of the strong players on that team, along with Shane Doan and some other, and Keith Kachuk and some other
Yeah.
guys down there. So that was a pretty good experience, I would say, for what, 6 years down there?
Yeah, well, I played 2 years in Winnipeg, and then the team moved to Phoenix.
Right.
So I was there for 4 years there. So yeah, I was 6 years of that organization. Loved it. Phoenix was fun. It was a great place to play. Obviously, the weather's fantastic. And we had a really good team. We had some teams that should have gotten out the first round. Obviously, lost to St. Louis in 7 games to us in a series we thought we should have won. And the same thing happened against Anaheim one year. And the other 2 years, we played Colorado and Detroit in the first round, which we pretty didn't have much chance of beating either one of those teams. So we did have some really solid teams. We had played Shane Doan, Jeremy Roenick, obviously Walt and Nikolai Habibula and Temple. We had some players. So it was disappointing we never got out of the first round there.
Yeah. So while you're there, a band named Stone Bogart writes a song.
You found this song too?
I saw it on YouTube. I saw it on YouTube. Dallas Drake, Dallas Drake.
Yeah, yeah.
What the heck was that all about? That you were their favorite player, obviously.
Yeah, well, it was, in where we played in America West, there was always a band up in the stands, and they'd play like in between periods, they'd play a couple songs. And, I guess I was their favorite player, and they wrote a song about me. And they showed up one day at our practice facility. They were all there, and they played this song. And it's still funny. Like I've been coaching out in Phoenix, like, the 15s, 16s, and 18s, the last couple of year old kids, and they found that on YouTube. And I walk in the dressing room, and they got it cranked up, and so I'm like, oh my goodness, you guys got to found this song. So it is kind of funny.
For those, I might try to drop it in on our YouTube channel, but for those who haven't seen it, it's basically Dallas Drake over and
Yeah,
over again.
yeah, yeah.
Well, great to have a song written about you, I guess. Maybe I'll grow up and have that happen one day.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, we're talking to Dallas Drake, in case you haven't figured that out, and we are happy that we had the former Blues captain on with us here today. So 6 seasons after your Winnipeg Phoenix excursion, you signed with the Blues. Were you a free agent when you signed with the Blues?
I was, yeah, that was the only time I was really, well, I guess, yeah, I was really my only time I was unrestricted free agent. So, back then the rules were when you were 31 years old when you were a free agent back then. So it's a lot different than it is now. So, yeah, that was the only, that was my own opportunity. And, you know, going to St. Louis was really high on my list. So it worked out well.
Why did you feel that way?
Well, the year before they won the President's Trophy and they lost to San Jose in the first round.
Right.
I had a chance to go to three or four different teams that year that were very good, and I really thought that Prongs and McGinnis and the list was long of the players Pavel that were on that team, and I really thought they had a chance of winning the Stanley Cup, and that was my priority at that point. I wanted to obviously sign somewhere where I had an opportunity to win, and I thought at that point they were one of the top teams.
And had that team been able to stay together, you probably would have. But that's when all that ownership
Yeah,
turmoil took place, and the Laurie ownership decided to strip
yeah,
down the team and sell off their assets, which included Chris Pronger and some other guys. And
yeah,
so you wind up being a captain on a team that's
yeah.
really struggling back then.
Yeah, we struggled. I mean, we scrapped a little bit the one year we were close to getting into playoffs, but we faded off at the end. But yeah, it was a difficult time. I mean, Prongs being traded, Al had the eye injury. Waiter went somewhere else. So we had we had some players, but just weren't good enough to get into playoffs at that time. It was difficult, and it was a tough time for a couple of years there, that's for sure.
Yeah, for young fans that don't remember, the 05-06 team had the unfortunate distinction of having the worst record in the NHL, 21, 46, and 15. The next year, Andy Murray comes in after, or I'm sorry, yeah, replaced Mike Kitchen in December. And then you went on a little bit of a run that year, almost made the playoffs.
Yeah, we did. It's like I said, it was difficult, but yeah, we made a little bit of run. It kind of seems like that happens quite a bit. You make a coaching change and everybody's playing for their jobs a little bit, and that's kind of what happened in that situation as well.
Yeah, so after that uh, season, you are placed on waivers by the Blues with the purpose of buying out your contract. That
Mhm.
that had to been a tough thing for you.
It was. I mean, you know, but I mean, I understood. I really did. I mean, I've been hurt a lot. As far as the cap situation, it's not like I was a huge cap number, but they were trying to move in a little bit younger direction and bringing in some guys. So I understood. I was disappointed. Don't get very disappointed. But Larry Plow, who's the GM at the time, Larry was a class act in my opinion. He actually flew to Traverse City, saw me, sat down with me, explained to me. I knew when said he wanted to come see me what was going to happen basically, but it was just a classy thing for a guy like that to do that. I mean, most times they just pick up the phone and say, "Here, or call your agent, and say, hey, we're done." He flew all the way up here, which is not that easy to get up here, and explain to me what was going on, and yeah, and that was it. So very disappointing. Obviously, a lot of close friends in St. Louis, close teammates, but I mean, it worked out, really well for me because I ended up signing in Detroit not that long after that.
Yeah, I want to talk about that here in a minute. But before you got away from the Blues, we had a little ceremony on the
Yeah,
ice back in January of '07,
that's
and
great.
Dallas Drake. Let me see if I can get this without some reflection
Yeah,
on it.
yeah,
Dallas Drake comes on the ice with John Davidson. There's my wife Barb, and honored me with for my 20 years with the team. It's now 38, but back then
yeah,
that was a pretty big deal.
that's
And
great.
Chaser, I think, did a little speaking before the game, and that's a moment I'll always cherish. And thank you for doing that. And
Yeah,
by the way, you presented me with a jersey that was signed
nice.
by the entire team, and that of course is prominent in the man cave too. And I
That's
think
great.
there's Dallas Drake signed right there. I think Brett Hull up here. So
Nice. That's a
so
great.
that's a keeper. So just wanted to show that to our YouTube fans. For those of you just listening to the podcast, it was a picture of Dallas and my wife Barb and me and John Davidson with a jersey presentation before the game. So let's move along to you signing with the Red Wings as a free agent. You got to play your final season on the Stanley Cup champion team that year. What a tremendous way to close out a career.
Yeah, it really was. It was kind of a dream season for me. I mean, being around the players, you're always, I played against and with a lot of really special players in St. Louis, Phoenix, everywhere I played. But, that team had some very special players. If you look at Nick and Zetterberg and Pavel Datsyuk, just, our goaltending situation was fabulous. So yeah, it was a treat to sit back and watch this guys. I mean, when I say sit back and watch, I watched a lot that year from the bench, which was fun. I enjoyed every second of it. I mean, those guys are special players and are Hall of Famers for a reason. And yeah, it was something I'll never forget. That whole season was a treat.
Yeah, for those who don't remember, Zetterberg won the Conn Smythe in the playoffs that year. The goaltenders you mentioned were Chris Osgood and Dominic Hasek. There's two pretty decent names. Thomas Holmstrom on that team, Chris Chelios, Darren McCarty.
Yeah.
That's a pretty significant bunch.
Yeah, we had the list kind of goes on. If you like, our defense was, in my opinion, so, I mean, Brian Rafalski, Nicholas, Jim Brad Stewart, Nicholas Cronwall. Those are our top four, and they played 3/4 of the game. And then you got Brett Lepta, Andres Lilia, players like that who are really good depth guys as well. So our defense, in my opinion, was second to none on that team, especially our top four.
And folks, when the Stanley Cup was presented, some of you might remember this, that Nick Lidstrom, the captain, of course, took the cup, and the first guy he handed it to was Dallas Drake. So you got to skate around, and that was a pretty nice show of respect by the
Yeah,
captain.
that was incredible. I had no idea that was happening. Like I was just standing there cheering. He was picking it up, and then Chris Draper and a couple of my buddies just kind of pushed me out there. They obviously had talked about it, and I was like, "Are you sure?" And yeah, amazing feeling. So much respect for those guys. Nicholas Lidstrom, for one, he's a special human being, and without a doubt, one of the greatest defensemen to ever play the game in the NHL. So it was, yeah, just having a chance. My family was there to lift the Stanley Cup and kind of look in the general direction where they were sitting. It was something that, I can never really describe.
Yeah, well, as being a guy affiliated with the Blues for so long, and I know a lot of Blues fans would say this, echo this point. You don't root for the Red Wings, but we were sure glad to see you get that recognition and that opportunity at that time in your life.
Yeah, thank you. It's it still gives me goosebumps a little bit just talking about it. It's all you can ask for is an opportunity to play for it, and that's you want a chance to play for it, and that's all you can ever ask. And like I said, that season in itself was kind of a dream season playing with those players and the playoffs kind of going the way they did and losing in game six or sorry, game of five at home when we could have won in like double overtime and having to go back to Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh got obviously a very formidable team at that time with Sid being young like he was. So it was thrilling.
Had you announced that you were going to retire after the season by then, or had?
Yeah, I haven't really. I didn't hadn't announced it, but I talked to the guys. They knew I wasn't going to play again. I guess my thoughts could have changed if we would have lost in the great in the playoffs. I mean, I maybe would have given it one more chance, but just winning the way we did and finishing my career like that was just seemed like the right thing to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a pretty good way to ride into the sunset for sure. Well, looking back on your Blues days, what kind of great memories would you have from that I haven't brought up?
Well, I mean, obviously, us going to the conference finals my first year there was incredibly thrilling. Um, Obviously, if you go back then, you remember how we got where we got to. We swept Dallas in the second round and went 4 games to none, and then we had to sit around for like a week, over a week, because I think Colorado had gone 7 games with Anaheim, if I'm not mistaken. So that really, really hurt us, I think. I mean, if we would have been able to find a way to play 2 or 3, even 4 days later and kept the momentum. I know we lost 4 games to 1, but I mean, it was, a couple of those games were in overtime. It was very disappointing because I thought we had a team that year. If we would have got through Colorado, I thought we had a team that could win the Stanley Cup. But we all know what Colorado, how they were built that year as well. They were fantastic and the players they had on their team. But just with the guys we had with Pav and Walt, and you got Prongs and McGinnis, and we were a deep team that could beat you in a lot of different ways. And I really think that winning in 4 games against Dallas in that second round and sitting around for a week and a half did not help us.
I guess Barrett Jackman was just getting his going too at the time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up, and I'll thank you. We're going to do a little extra session here after I wrap this podcast up, if you don't mind, Dallas. And I want to thank you before I do that for coming on. And I'm sure a lot of the fans who haven't seen you for a while will love to see this on YouTube, and of course hear it on our regular podcast platforms. Thanks so much. All the best to you, sir. It's been great chatting with you again, and all the best.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to see you, and you do a heck of a job, and keep it up.
Thanks for being with me for this episode of the St. Louis Blues Hockey Legends Podcast. Please do business with our sponsors, Sarah Honda, O'Fallon, Illinois, and the Gateway Grizzlies. Links to their websites can be found at paguytom.com and blueshockeylegends.com. And many thanks to the Blues talented organist Jeremy Boyer for providing the atmosphere with his keyboard magic. Visit him at Jabs Music on X. Stay tuned to our social media for news and clues about upcoming episodes. Video of the podcast is available the Monday after the release of the audio. Visit youtube.com and search for St. Louis Blues Hockey Legends. And please subscribe. Tom Calhoun here saying thanks for listening, and let's go Blues!